Okay, folks, we are live. I just opened the channel on YouTube, so anything that you say is now being streamed over the web and into folks' homes.
Josue, can you go ahead and mute everybody that's not Planning Commission or Denise? Planning Commission or Denise?
Yes.
Or me right now.
Now, I will allow everyone to unmute themselves since this is all participants. All right, I've muted everyone. You can unmute yourself.
So Dino and Laura will need to unmute.
They can
Get that, yeah.
as long as Frank calls it to order, then we'll.
Okay.
Judy, just so you know, the meeting is being broadcasted only to YouTube, which is what has traditionally been done. Does this need to be recorded?
It does if you're able to, yes. Because I need to do minutes.
Okay.
You have that. Do you have that
There'll be-
capacity?
I do. I have the ability to record on my end, and it'll also be recorded on YouTube.
Okay, fantastic.
So I'm recording now.
Should I just get started at 7 o'clock?
Yep.
I'm glancing at my iPad just to find out when it's officially 7 o'clock so that we can start. It's now 7 o'clock. Well, good evening, everybody who's on my computer screen right now, and good evening to anybody who out there who on YouTube who might be watching. This is the June 9th meeting of the Yellow Springs Planning Commission. My name is Frank, and I am currently the chair of the Planning Commission. And this is my first opportunity to chair a Planning Commission meeting via Zoom, so we'll see how it goes. First of all, could the clerk call the Planning Commission roll, please?
Absolutely. All right. Doden.
Here.
Williams.
You have to unmute yourself. Where'd he go?
I lost him.
Oh, there he's coming back.
Me? Here? Are you talking about?
Nope.
Nope.
Williams.
No, AJ Williams, Planning
Okay.
Commission.
I thought
Sorry.
so. Sorry, I was thinking I'm not me. Okay.
Is he
Okay.
back on? I'm not getting him.
I see him.
I'm back on.
Are you here?
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Gotcha. Malata.
Here.
Greene.
Here.
Curlis.
Here.
Also present is zoning administrator Denise Swinger, and we should have present Jason Norwood of Coolidge Wall. Jason, are you here? Okay, we do not have Jason.
He is supposed to be here. He could, maybe he's muted. I don't know.
Oh, I'm not seeing him.
Not seeing him at all. Okay, because I did talk with Chris just a little bit ago, and Jason was gonna. We didn't change the phone, the link, did we?
Oh, Jason's having trouble with the Zoom link. I just got a text.
All right, well, I will go ahead for right now and just sort of briefly review the agenda. Hopefully people will have copies of it. We'll have a review of the minutes of our last meeting, which was, 3 years ago on March 10th, 2020. Seems an awful long time ago. And then we'll talk about 3 letters in the communications section. Laura, will you have a council report?
I don't think so.
Okay. We'll have an opportunity for citizens' comments for any items that are not on the agenda for tonight. And then we have 3 public hearings. The first, a minor subdivision application by Marie and Brian, and I see you both on camera there. A conditional use application for Julie Williams. Where'd you go? Oh, there you are. Everybody keeps moving around on my screen, so I lose track of where you are. And then also a conditional use application for Charles Harrell for the distillery at Millworks. Is Charles here? Maybe not. I haven't seen him yet. But and after that, we'll cover old business, new business, agenda planning, and then eventually adjourn. So hopefully the meeting will run pretty efficiently and we'll get through things. So let's start by reviewing the minutes from the March 2010 regular meeting. I'll ask you, does everybody have your copies of the minutes? Okay.
Yes.
I'll just do it like usual, page by page. Does anybody have any corrections or clarifications needed for page 1? Anything on page 2? Or page 3? Okay, good. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
So move.
Second,
Okay. It's been moved and second that the March 10th, 2020 minutes be approved. Why don't you call the roll, please, Judy, on that?
Yes. Pallotta,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Curlis,
yes.
Jody.
Yes.
And I am not calling Greene because he was not present at the meeting. So we've got a 4-0 approval of the meeting.
Okay. All right. The communications was the next item on the agenda. We had the letter from Richard Zopp regarding concerns that he had about the zoning code, and then Denise's response that she wrote. Denise, would you like to talk about that a little bit? Or-
Well, I mean, not really, but
Okay.
unless somebody had some specific questions, I mean, it's kind of, I try to explain the reasons why we do what we do as far as setbacks, unlike other communities, because we do allow very close setbacks to property lines. And that's why we take into consideration the roof edge or like an overhead balcony.
Yeah.
Would-
And then the other concern he seemed to have was the inability at some places to consider or to understand what the intent of the code was. So,
Yeah, I think if anything, I think that we've really, Planning Commission has done a very good job of trying to clear up as, you know, things come along, anything that was a little bit vague.
Right.
And trying to straighten it out as much as possible.
The setbacks apply to porches and steps and things like that, or just to the structure?
They apply to porches and steps, yes. What doesn't apply is any patio areas that are on the ground, but like a deck would apply. So
Okay.
basically you have your setback area. So if you measure, say your setback is 20 feet in the rear and 20 feet in the front and 10 on both sides, 5 maybe on one side, 10 on the other, whatever that setback area is, whatever you want to put in on that property has to be outside, completely outside of that setback area.
Okay.
okay. Any other questions about that letter? Okay. And then the third communication was the letter from Alex Melamed supporting the proposed lot change that we're going to be talking about in a little bit for 141 North Walnut Street to allow for greater housing density. So, all right, Laura, you said we were not going to have a council report tonight. Is that correct?
Well,
Okay.
I can't, unless Judy can enlighten me. I mean, most of our time has been spent on things that aren't related to planning.
Okay. That's good.
Unless
Okay.
you want to hear about masks and wearing masks.
No. Sorry.
I'm just saying.
Okay, then we'll go on to the next item on the agenda, which is the time for citizen comments. And this is if anybody wants to comment on any item that is not on the agenda for tonight. And if so, and you're out there and you'd like to speak to anything that's not on the agenda, just unmute yourself and step forward and state your name. I'll give you a couple of seconds.
If someone has an issue unmuting themselves, raise your hand in the video and I'll unmute you.
I have nothing on chat.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess, well, we'll go ahead and move on to the public hearings. I'm not seeing anything on citizen comments. So, all right. Well, let's go to the first of the public hearings then. That is for a minor subdivision application for Marie Hertzler and Brian Malm. Applied for a minor subdivision at 141 North Walnut Street to create an uncommon lot configuration with a frontage on Cliff Street. So Denise, would you?
Sure, and I'm gonna share the screen here and
Okay.
pull up. Okay, does everybody see that?
I'm not seeing it.
You're not seeing it.
No.
Now?
Nope, still not seeing it.
Josue, it popped up that the host has to share the screen with
Oh,
me.
yeah.
I have it set up so that you can share your screen. Try that now. I could make you host as well if you want to do that.
Well, I can, let's see. Yeah, because when I,
Try now. I just made you host.
Okay.
right, so. Nope, that's, I don't know. Okay,
Do you want me to share anything on the screen?
yes,
What page?
it's, well, I have everything opened up on, in order on mine.
Is it in the packet?
Starting, it was in the packet too. It's Exhibit A for 141 North Walnut Street.
Do you know what page it is? Is it page 11, your report?
No,
I've got it.
oh, you do?
I do.
Okay. I typically don't.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. Okay, sorry about that.
Is this what you're going to show?
Does it show for everybody else?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so Marie Hertzler and Brian Mon have requested using the uncommon lot split language that we have. When Planning Commission worked on this language a year or so ago, one of the things that they didn't take into consideration, we did not take into consideration, was an actual corner lot. Typically, these uncommon lots will be flag lots where the driveway would come in the areas you see on this screen on North Walnut Street, and it would lead you back to that property in the backyard. In this case, there is two basically double frontage because of the Cliff Street as well as the North Walnut side. And we didn't want to create a double frontage lot. So they did move that in 3 feet. The reason that they wanted to keep the length as long as they could was to allow a future homeowner of the house to be able to actually build something off of that side lot line if they wanted to. They met all of the requirements for residential C as far as lot size. The house that's existing is 15 feet from the side lot line to the rear from the eaves, as you can see on that. and when I talked with Marie about the type of house she wanted to place on this, letting her know that she was going to have a 20-foot frontage requirement off of Cliff Street, a 15-foot backyard requirement, as well as her side lot lines of 5 each. She felt that was just fine because they don't intend on building anything smaller or anything bigger than about 1,000 square foot patio home. So what we wanted to do was, because this is unusual, is just she had someone come out and just do a simple survey just to get an idea of what this would look like before she goes and pays to have an actual recording instrument done by a professional surveyor. And wanted to just run this by you first. If Planning Commission finds this acceptable to them, then she would move forward with a professional survey and bring it back to Planning Commission for a public hearing.
And the purpose for having the piece of the lot that is
Excuse
sort of
me,
like
who's speaking?
this is Steve Greene.
Okay.
All right. So the purpose of having that piece of the lot is because of the lots have to be a certain area.
They have to have, for residential C, has to have 4,800 square feet.
Okay.
And this, like I said, this will not come up probably very often. Typically, it's usually a flag lot, which goes all the way out to the street.
Is it 4,800 like buildable area? I mean, that 1960 is not very usable.
Yeah, no, it's just 4,800 square feet lot size.
Any other members of the Planning Commission have any other questions for Denise?
So the only other question I have is, so if it comes time to, if they want to sell and you've got that 3-foot setback for that easement, if you will, that's going to go away. So we're going to make it a true flagpole piece of land, right? Tract.
No, that's always going to be like that.
Okay.
That will always be their property.
Because it has to, because of the square footage requirement?
Correct.
Right.
Denise, this is AJ. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the spirit of the flag lot is to serve as a driveway, and this just looks like it's serving to meet the square footage qualification. Is that your understanding of it?
It is. It is to meet the square footage.
Okay, thank you.
And where would parking be for this new lot?
Their entrance is going to be on Cliff Street, and they do have 40 feet of frontage, more than 40 feet of frontage, and they would have, their house has to be set back 20 feet, which they will be able to do, so they'll park on their property in the driveway off of Cliff Street.
Without blocking any, I don't know if there's a sidewalk there or not, if there was a future sidewalk or pedestrian, I mean.
Yeah, it won't, that is the front lot line where it is. So no, it won't block, it would not block any, it'll be pulled all the way in. I don't think there is, and maybe they can answer that.
Can I get a point of clarification on AJ's question? Because AJ, it seemed to me, was asking whether this configuration was kind of a violation of the spirit of a flag lot. I didn't hear you quite answer that. You just indicated that was not to serve as a driveway. It was simply to add square footage. So the question, I think, if I'm understanding correctly, is still on the table. Is this an acceptable use of flag lot if that does not serve as a driveway? Am I getting that right, AJ?
That's kind of the way I feel about it. I think, as you've mentioned, the spirit of the flag lot is just to provide for a driveway that would make its way back into a larger area for a home. And I think this is just trying to qualify for square footage the way I see it.
So I guess the question on the table is whether or not that's a permissible definition of flag lot.
Yeah, we don't have a definition of a flag lot in the code, nor do we have a definition of an uncommon lot. And I did talk with Devin Shoemaker of Greene County Regional Planning, and he said, you know, although they are typically shaped like flag lots, they can also be other shapes and sizes. So I was planning on bringing forth an amendment to add uncommon lot definition to the planning code subdivision regulations.
I mean, there's nothing that stipulates that a flag lot, that narrow strip has to be a driveway.
No.
Right. Yeah.
Why
That's
is
just
there-
typically how it would be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is there not, why doesn't it go all the way to Walnut? Why is there that 3 feet gap?
Because then it's creating a double frontage lot. You'd have frontage on Cliff Street as well as on Walnut Street.
Yeah.
But that then prevents a driveway coming down the flagpole.
Correct.
Would it even be wide enough for a driveway?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's 20 feet.
Oh, okay.
Would be.
So it's like,
Maybe we want to hear from the applicant.
Yeah.
yeah, and
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Maria, Brian, are you there?
We are.
Would you
Yeah,
like?
we're here.
Okay. Would you like to talk about your proposal?
Yeah, sure. So the question, as I hear it, is about the flag part. For us, we would like to have the driveway on Cliff. We're not interested in having a long driveway from North Walnut back. So for us, this basically is land that we would not really be interested in having, since there's no provision in the code for a lot smaller than 4,800 square feet, which is what this area 1 would be. Then having this additional square footage to meet the minimum is what we are asking for.
Do any members of the Planning Commission have any questions for Marie or Brian?
Not a question, but I mean, I'm bothered by the fact that essentially the buildable area, this 2850, is really kind of like the only usable area for building because of the configuration. And that this unusable area 1960 is added simply to create, essentially to create a smaller lot than would otherwise be allowed. Would that be correct?
Someone else could come with that extra 3 feet and not have a frontage on, they could be an interior lot, and you would allow it. So like I said, you know, the Planning Commission did not come into, didn't think about corner lots. I didn't think about corner lots when this came up.
Right.
I don't really want to get to where we go with anything smaller than the 4,800 square feet, because I mean, we are making, we are trying to, as part of the vision, do more infill. But I think if we go any smaller than what we already are requiring, then we're going to get into more issues with the density and stormwater runoff. And so if they hadn't had this on their corner lot, which this happens to be a pretty big corner lot, they would never have been able to do it otherwise.
I'm wondering if we could just visually, so we could see each other better. Do we need the screen sharing? All right,
Now I
thank
can
you.
raise my
Yeah, I don't
hand.
know what happened there. Maybe
Yeah, no, that's good.
I can, let me close that exhibit.
Do planning commission members, anybody else have any other questions for Marie or Brian at this point? Okay. Are we ready to open the public hearing on this? Okay, I'll go ahead and open a public hearing. If anybody would like to comment on this application, please raise your hand. Andrew Holyoke.
Okay, am I unmuted?
Yes, we can hear. Can everybody hear him?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I am in full support of whatever Brian and Marie want to do. I think the flag lot, I'm not sure what the reasons for that 3 foot are, but I think in terms of making a sensible lot, that 3 foot should not be there, and it should be done as a real flag lot for the future, because it makes no sense to have it. I'm in total support of what they want to do, and if that's what it takes to have that 3 foot section there, that's fine. But I don't think it makes any sense in the long run to not have it be a flag lot. I think that's the end of my comment.
Okay, thank you, Andrew.
I'm a neighbor. You're in the neighborhood.
Oh, and I'm a neighbor.
Right. Thank you. Any other members of the public that would like to comment on this application? No? All right, I'm not seeing anything, so I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing then and bring it back to the Planning Commission. Are there any other questions or concerns that members of the Planning Commission have at this point? Yes, Laura.
Denise, tell me about the utilities and the stormwater and how stormwater would be handled on a lot smaller than 4,800, because essentially that's the building area if that 19.
That, yeah. And I don't have that with me. Usually Johnny's with me in these meetings. I don't know if I had anything in I had looked at that with him, and there was utility access there for storm. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, like where would it go?
Well, I can find that out if you want to wait a second here.
And I have a follow-up question.
So I did had checked with Johnny on the actual utilities, and there was utility access for that. For stormwater, I would have to get off of here. I could get to the map, but I don't want to disconnect myself here.
Okay.
The stormwater.
So what would have to happen to make this a true flag lot?
This particular, because it's a corner lot, we can't make it a flag lot.
Because it can't have
variance.
I'm sorry?
Even with the variance?
No, yeah, the variance can only be dimensional. It can't be something that's strictly, that's in the zoning code that you can't, creating double frontage lots is not supposed to happen. Let's see.
Can I ask a question that might,
Mm-hmm.
if Planning Commission gives a preliminary approval,
Right.
Am I correct in that they will have to come back with a stormwater mitigation plan that's attached to the building plan that then gets approved? Is that something that is now in place?
The stormwater mitigation plan is not a part of the code yet, but that doesn't prevent Planning Commission from requesting that for this.
Don't we do that every time that anybody's going to put an AUD? They have to come with stormwater runoff or runoff, where it's going, how you're going to mitigate it. Aren't we going to? So if we approve the flag lot right now, when they come back with a plan for the house, we're going to have all that information for runoff, for where the runoff's going, how they're going to mitigate for it, right?
Yeah, so again, Planning Commission, you can request that right now for accessory dwelling units. I mean, there's basically the code as it stands right now just says, you know, stormwater cannot run onto your neighboring properties, and we don't require it, but we are going to be requiring it as soon as we finish these subdivision regulations. That is, and maybe, and you know, we'll require it of accessory dwelling units. It won't be a full engineering plan, but it'll be a mitigation plan where the person will either be doing a rain garden, or they'll do like a infiltration trench that they're going to do, or a certain number of trees that they're going to plant, but they'll have to come up with something. Yes. And you can require that now of this.
I'm uncomfortable voting for such a small, essentially a 2,800 square foot lot without a stormwater plan. And ideally, the reason you have the bigger lots is partly so there's somewhere for the stormwater to go. And I don't know the topo on this property. Will the stormwater go onto the 1950 square foot somehow? So that lot area is actually usable for some of the purposes why we have the size lots we do.
Yeah, I don't.
Didn't we do that with Winter Street? When they're putting up their auxiliary unit, we made sure that the water, and I know we didn't have the plan for I think we did have the plan for the house.
Yeah, on Winter Street, that came up during the meeting, and then that was a condition that you required. And Johnny Burns was then told that he needed to go out and check what it was they were doing to make sure that the water was mitigated, and then it ran into the storm system. Because especially in that part of town, it is a problem.
And Denise, could you summarize your staff recommendation for this, please?
Well, I would recommend approving it only because I don't think the size of the area where they're going to build is not going to be untypical of other properties in the community that are interior lots, where the flag lot would just come down the driveway. You did the same thing with over on West Center College. It was maybe it almost probably looked about the same as far as the driveway. It took up quite a big portion of the square footage, and it was a smaller footprint in the back. So this is just a little bit different, and we could, you know, change some language for it later, but I'm sorry, I'm trying to get Johnny's answering me here via text. But yeah, I was going to say go ahead and recommend it, and again, you can put conditions on it for a stormwater mitigation plan for it.
I mean, with small lots, it's easy for stormwater to go onto the neighbors and cause problems.
Yeah,
for sure. For sure. And they're going to meet, they will meet all of the setbacks within that smaller area.
Right.
Because they're going to do a very small footprint house.
Right. Okay, any other questions or concerns by Planning Commission at this point? Somebody like to make a motion? Well, I'll make a motion. I move that we approve the application for the minor subdivision with the condition of adding that they provide a stormwater mitigation plan.
And that plan's going to be obviously with when they come with the plan for the house, they're going to have the mitigation for the water, correct?
I would assume so. Yeah. Yes.
I will second that.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Judy, could you read back the motion, please?
Yeah, the motion is to approve the application with the condition that a stormwater mitigation plan is provided with the site plan. Denise?
We can have them actually bring it when they bring back the survey too. They already have an idea of the footprint of the house.
So with the official survey?
Sure.
Okay.
And that will come back to Planning Commission?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. It's been moved and seconded. Judy, would you call the roll, please?
Well, after
Oh,
second discussion, I just have one more question.
Okay, sure.
So, and there's an attorney, our attorney's on the line. So we don't have the power to also as a condition, make it a flag lot.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi.
Hi.
Hey, Laura. And can you repeat your question?
Do we have the power to, and as another condition of approval, to make it a flag lot? So that it would have driveway access from Walnut as well as frontage on Cliff?
You know, I think that you do have the power to do that. The first thing, to answer your first question that you had referred to before, I was looking at the variances, and we have done in the past a conditional granting of the application based on the variances. I was looking at 127804, but I do think we could add the other condition for the flag lot if commission wanted to. But I would have to look into that because I have not dealt with that before.
Won't that change everything because it'll be two front lots then again because it's a corner lot, and that's what we're trying to get around, right?
Yeah.
I guess why is that bad? I mean, it turns pretty much unusable square footage on that is our minimum requirement into something that could be used at some point.
So I guess that's the question for Jason is, can they, if the code is saying not to create double frontage lots, can they go ahead and do that?
Well, let me look here.
And I'm sorry, I could probably find it pretty quickly if I could get to my actual
Sure, and I'm on here as well.
Okay, so
Can I make a comment while you're looking?
Sure.
If the spirit of the code is you want a particular kind of lot, you want to create a flag lot because that's a fairly defined type of lot. The code also very clearly indicates that we want to limit impermeable surfaces. So if in making a flag lot, we're saying, but we'd like you to pave that and make a very long driveway in, I feel like we're violating the spirit of the zoning code again. It's an odd conundrum. I get the idea of increasing the use, but so another question for you is, in the future, could someone place a drive access across an easement? Well, no, never mind. I'm sorry. That depends on whether you can have the double frontage.
right.
Yeah, and to your point, I do think that we would try our best to keep it as no double frontage, at least based on what I'm seeing in the code here.
Yeah.
So I would advise not doing that, Laura, based on what I did see in the code.
If people were uncomfortable with the flag part of this, I mean, and it doesn't sound like there's really any plan for it except that it meets the square footage requirement. Why couldn't there be a deviation to let them just have a 2850 square foot lot, and they could just sell the flagpole with their other lot? You couldn't build on that. You know, you could expand the house, but I mean, what would be the implications of allowing somebody to have a smaller lot?
Excuse me.
That's the way I'm thinking too, Stephen. I'm like, what, why do this if it's not? gonna
I'm
be-
sorry, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. We're trying to avoid changing anything that's not already required in the code. Sorry. So residential C, the minimum lot square footage is 4,800 square feet. That's why. That's why we're doing that.
Yeah, I think in the past, we just don't want to go down this road because you're going to start creating conflict, or every time we're going to have a smaller lot. That was the whole reason for the 4,800.
Yeah.
Was just to make sure that we're all on the same page. If we start making exceptions, we know down the road we're going to open up a can of worms.
So this just keeps it from establishing a precedent. It's just that is just to keep the minimum square footage.
That's correct.
It's not a terrible solution. It's just a little awkward.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's uncommon for sure.
It's uncommon.
Well, and I think it violates the spirit of 4,800 square feet lot minimum because
Well,
essentially.
then that would be the case for all other lots that we have approved. I mean,
Well, because how wide is the narrow strip going out to Walnut? Is that 20 feet wide?
yes.
I mean, that's certainly, odd as it may be, it certainly is usable land. I mean, you could have an orchard in that amount of square footage if you wanted to, and you could do all sorts of things with it. So while it may be an unusual layout of 4,800 square feet, it certainly is not, if it was 2 feet wide, then I'd say I might agree that it's not usable, but 20 feet wide, no, that's plenty usable. I can do a lot with 20 feet wide. So.
I did get a response back from Johnny, and he did say there is a storm catch basin on the other side of Walnut. So, I mean, they'll just would have to bring that mitigation plan, and we'll have to look into that. But I would prefer that, and as the motion was, that they bring it with their survey rather than when they come to build the house, because I'd like Planning Commission to be able to weigh in on the plan.
Okay, any other questions before we take a vote on this?
So is that the motion, Frank?
Yeah, you want to read it again, please, Judy? I'll have her read it again. So.
Yes, this is a motion to approve the application with the condition that a stormwater mitigation plan is provided with the official survey. And it's been seconded by Pallotta.
Right. Okay, Judy, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Greene.
I guess approve. I don't have any issue with it.
Okay. Perlis.
Yes.
Doden.
Yes.
Pallotta.
Yes.
Williams.
No.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Maria and Brian, I think we're finished with you, so you may zoom away. Thank you very much for coming. Okay, the next public hearing is the conditional use application from Julie Williams. Julie, you're still with us here, yeah. For a home occupation permit to establish private psychology practice at 128 Marshall Street. So Denise, would you talk about this a little bit?
Yeah, she is most of the time during the pandemic, and from what she has explained in her application, even after that, she is going to hold a lot of this via Zoom virtual meetings, but there will be times that she will have a private practice where someone will come and visit the home. Typically, what we allow in home occupations is up to 8 client visits a day. We require 1 extra off-street parking space. She has a garage, and then she does have a driveway that would hold 2 cars. The difference with this one is that she hopes to have a couple of students that will come twice a week, clinical students, and she can maybe elaborate on that more. I don't see this as being um, detrimental to the neighbors, I think it won't have much of an impact at all. And as she indicated, it wouldn't be that frequently.
Why is this not just a administrative approval, Denise?
The only time it can be administrative approval is when you have 0 people coming to the house. Where, you know, you just happen to have your home office in there, but you don't bring people there.
And there'll be no signage in front of this house?
She would be allowed to have a small sign, but through this process, she would not be if it had been an administrative approval. However, she hasn't indicated that. That would be a question for her.
Any other questions from Planning Commission for Denise at this point? Okay, Julie Williams, can you hear me? Yeah, would you like to speak about your application a little bit?
I don't know if this matters, but I actually use another HIPAA compliant system that's not Zoom. You mentioned Zoom, so I don't know if that's relevant. And I wasn't planning to put a sign at this point. I really just want this to be primarily telepsychology, virtual psychology. I do a lot of disability related work. Transportation, access to offices is a problem, and COVID has reconfigured that whole world even more. And so I'm really thinking down the road, long time, when COVID is no longer a threat, maybe 1 or 2 people in person a week. And then the supervision, by the way, would also be virtual, telesupervision virtually at this point in time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay, thank you. Any members of the Planning Commission have any questions for Julie?
Yes, Frank, I do.
Okay.
Typically in the past with home occupations, my first question is always, is it a business that's registered with the Secretary of State's office at all, as like a first step towards, if it's a home occupation, if we're going to consider it as such, are they registered with the state? So that would be my question to you, Ms. Williams. Are you registered with the state of Ohio as a business?
I did not register with the state of Ohio. I am working on the LLC. I'm part of the faculty practice. So I'm actually under the practice of UPSA, University Practice Psychological Service Association. So I'm under that practice. This is just allowing me to have another occupation, another space, given that we're under the COVID restriction, and just preparing, trying to be a little proactive here.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Denise.
Yeah, Laura.
Denise, if we approve this, you said a commercial sign would be allowed?
It could have a very small little sign. It's very small that can be like on the wall of their house, or a ground sign. But again, it's very restrictive in size.
For what it's worth, I'm not planning to put a sign. I'm not planning to do heavy marketing. I have a very specific clientele, so I'm not planning to do that, for what that's worth.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Julie. All right, then I will go ahead and open the public hearing on this conditional use application. If any members of the public, neighbors, anybody who might be floating around out there would like to comment on this, I'll give you a couple of minutes to be able to chime in. Just raise your hand or use the chat function. Okay, I don't see anything, so I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the Planning Commission. Does anybody have any other questions or concerns about this application at this point?
No.
Okay. All right, would anybody like to make a motion about it? Are we,
I'll make a motion to approve the application.
okay, I'll second it. Okay. So it's been moved and seconded. Are we ready to vote? Okay. Judy, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Williams,
Yes.
Lotta,
Yes.
Doden,
Yes.
Curlis,
Yes.
Greene.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Julie, for hanging around for the whole meeting. Okay, and have a good evening. Okay.
Good luck.
Okay. All right, that brings us to the third of the public hearings. This is a conditional use application or mixed use industrial from Charles Harrell. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Submitted an application to open a distillery at Millworks, 305 North Walnut Street. So Denise, would you like to
Is he
talk about this?
is he online? I don't see him, so
Oh,
I'll make sure.
oh, no, there he is.
Yes.
He's down there.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
Yep.
Okay, so the distillery, as you know, there was a distillery previously at Millworks. This one is located in the same vicinity, not all of the same rooms. I could add my exhibits, but I don't know. Let me see. If I do that again, what that's going to do. Let's see. Hmm.
There we go.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so if you can see that, does everyone see that?
I don't see the map yet.
You don't see it. It says I'm screen sharing.
Well, I see your menu of exhibits.
Yeah, double click that map there, Denise.
Huh.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. It is in your packets. I apologize. It's saying that I'm seeing it. It's saying that it's screen sharing it. So I don't know what's going on.
Did you pull that out of the packet, Denise, or is that one of your set aside exhibits?
I ended up taking it from the folder. So let me.
Yeah, pull it onto your desktop maybe and click it.
Okay, let me do that. Okay, well. Can you see that?
No.
Is it coming up on your screen, Denise?
Yes, it's coming up
Huh.
on my screen and it's saying I'm screen sharing it. So I'm sorry.
No,
So
it's all right.
Exhibit A, it's just the original Millworks site plan.
I'll pull it up. Denise.
Okay. And Exhibit A shows the location that they're going to occupy in their one room on their site plan A10 was also a room that was used by, let me close this out real quick.
Is it this one, Denise?
I need to minimize this, hang on. Yes, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so on this A10 was also a part of S&G Distillery, but as you can see, they're actually moving their biggest part of their operation into an area, a new area, which abuts the Yellow Springs Brewery's manufacturing area. This distillery will employ about 6 people. It has a tasting room. It's a very open concept. If you can see in that C2 and C3, if you can show Exhibit B, it's an open concept room, but the area where you see the floor beams will be the area of the tasting room, and will also be where they'll have their retail use, where what they'll do is they'll have tickets that you can purchase for up to 4 1/4 ounce shots of different types of spirits or their wines. And then they'll also have like retail of their t-shirts and possibly hats, things like that. If you could go to Exhibit C. What they have in Exhibit B, there had been a big door that you could see to the right of that photo. There is an entrance as well, and people can enter through there and come into the tour area and go over to the tasting retail area, purchase their spirits. They can then walk around in the tour area, heading towards if you see at the bottom of the screen, the distillery area, which will be closed off from visitors entering, as well as the bottling room. You won't be able to enter in there, but there'll be these large glass windows for you to see the distillery area. And then they're going to have artwork, and over on the left side, those squares with the little X's are actually where they're going to have their wine vats. Exhibit D, please. And that is, again, the tasting room is to your left. That open door there to the right of that is an entrance as well from the outside. The other area that which was identified under Exhibit A as A10 is actually going to be a private office area for them. And I believe they have a private office area on a mezzanine on an upper floor. It's part of the open floor concept of the warehouse. But in the overall property, which you can see in Exhibit E, the area that's striped there is the section of it that they will be occupying. And to the right of that is the brewery. And Exhibit F. This is just another floor plan view of their actual facility. And that's it. Exhibit F. So they are going to be selling lots of different flavors of spirits and wine. And Charles Harrell is here to answer any of your questions. They're only going to be brewing 2 days a week, Sunday and Monday, at a time when they won't be open. And then Tuesday through Saturday, they will have their tasting room hours.
Thank you, Denise. Any members of the Planning Commission have any questions specifically that Denise might be able to answer at this point?
Well, Denise, I have the same question as I did previously. If you could ask Mr. Harrell if his Tuck and Red Spirits and Wines is registered with the state, if it's a business, if it's an operating business now, if he plans to, what his plans are moving forward, please.
Okay. Well, we'll in a little bit, Charlie, you'll have an opportunity to talk. So
I believe it is an LLC, but
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He'll be able to answer that.
Okay. Any,
Is
yeah,
this
I'm sorry.
gonna increase the number of people there? It already seems like there's often the parking's often an issue over at the brewery. Is
Yeah,
that
Denise,
something?
you talked about parking in your report a little bit.
I did. That's always hard to gauge. We have a lot of people that park there when they don't have parking in that location. They'll use the village's parking lot in the evening and then just hop on the bike path and walk over. I'm not that concerned about it. I mean, S&G was there before.
That was my response. How much issue did we have with S&G?
I did talk with our chief of police. I wanted him to be aware of this new facility. And he said that in all the time that he's been here, which has probably been all the time that S&G and the brewery's been here, they've never had any incidents at either place.
But S&G was, I mean, much smaller. There you could fit maybe 6 people in their tasting room.
True. This will definitely be different.
Okay.
Do you have an idea, Denise, about how many people will be allowed in the tasting room?
I believe they, I did have that on my sheet. It's on Exhibit A, not Exhibit A. It's on their site plan. Let me look again.
Okay.
Because they got an occupational
Yeah.
area, tasting room 27, general area 15, staff 6, for a total occupancy of 48 for the whole facility.
Right.
But I don't know that if that 27, and that would be a question for Charlie, if that tasting area is not that big. And I think that they were taking into consideration the whole area there to walk around in. But he might be able to answer those questions.
Right. Okay, well, Charlie.
Oh, yes, sir.
Can you hear me? Welcome to the meeting. Would you like to talk a little bit about your application and maybe answer some of the questions that members of the Planning Commission might have for you?
Okay. Let's first, I suppose, we'll address the parking. And I've noticed myself with Yellow Springs Brewery, it's a busy place, and it's not a lot of long-term visitors. And then, so I think that the flow of traffic will be quite similar to what it is now. And keep in mind that I think there's another exit possibility over towards the cemetery road there. I'm not sure. But then I'll go back to the amount of people in the tasting room. Denise spoke. It is 27 with the total area of the warehouse 49 people capacity.
Do you know if the folks who own the millworks there have any plans to try to make more parking?
I mean, I believe that there's probably areas there that we can improve parking and designate slightly better. I know Enviro Flight is a large manufacturer there, and they don't require a lot of parking. I could definitely ask Jessica and the millworks, people. To answer your question, I'm not real sure if they have plans to add on to the parking there currently. No.
Any other members of the Planning Commission have any other questions for Charlie?
So I just do have kind of a general question. So what's I just really nothing maybe about the planning, but just interested in what's your background and, how did you get into distilling and, the long-term thing or?
Sure. Now we're talking. Okay. So I've been making wine, it's a long family tradition, probably since I was about 16, I picked up how to make blackberry wine was the first one. And our dandelion wine recipe is actually our great grandmother's. My partners, Tucker Thompson. I believe he's online there. It's just a thing that's been taught. You know, we studied, we learned, and it's a craft. I think that Yellow Springs is right for our industry. You know, it's an artisan thing. It grows with the people, and you know, from the shine to the barrel aged spirits to the mountain wine that we make, there's definitely handcrafted feel to it.
What's I noticed a term showing up, and it's one I'm not familiar with. The definition of mountain wine, is that just wine made from things other than grapes? Is that?
Well, yeah, basically,
Okay.
sure, yeah. And you
Okay.
might find a little bit sediment there, you know, and then maybe a higher ABV.
Okay.
Sure.
And you are one of the questions that AJ had about license.
Yes, ma'am. We are a licensed LLC with the state. Currently, we're working on the state permitting for the distillery aspects, and then the federal.
What's the name of your LLC?
Tuckin Reds LLC.
So
So it's TUCKN
RED.
and then REDE. Because I haven't found it with the Secretary of State's office.
Okay, I can supply you with the EIN number as well as a copy of our incorporation.
It has a unusual spelling. So it's like capital TUCK, small n. Is
Yep.
there an apostrophe after that, and then capital RED apostrophe S? Or
I
is
will have to look exactly, but it's TUCK. I believe it shows hyphen N hyphen RED.
Oh, okay.
You got it.
I think it's the hype, and I'm guessing
Thank
you're
you.
red and Tucker is Tuck, right?
Absolutely, you got it now.
Okay.
And our brother is John Mick, our third partner.
I was
Cool,
I was
thanks.
wondering myself because I had a hard time finding your website.
At Tuckin Reds on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and then tuckinreds.com. And I'm sorry, we're not the most tech savvy people. We're just trying to learn. I had my 14-year-old help me do this.
Everything's going all right. So
Thank you.
what kind of approximate time do you think that you're going to be planning on opening if things go right?
So I'm going to give you the tentative date of September. I'm pushing for the 4th fiscal quarter of 2020.
And the reason I asked that, Charlie, was just because as a restaurant bar, we all have stipulations that we have to deal with. The capacity is 49. Obviously, you're not going to have that capacity.
Right.
Are you making provisions at this point? Because, you know, we all have capacity issues right now with social distancing and how we set up. Have you taken that into account? Are you guys planning for that? Because it's going to come up, obviously, especially when you meet with the chief of police, the fire chief, and when you meet with the health department and whatnot. Just
Yes,
things
sir.
for you guys to consider.
Yes, sir. So I've been watching, you know, we've been over there cleaning up, and I've been watching the Yellow Springs Brewery handle it with the, you know, the social distancing and the way they are ushering folks and just keeping a minimum, you know, a maximum amount of people inside and just maintaining that flow. And I think we would probably follow along right along with what they have going, if not similar. For sure. Definitely. It's all on the forefront of everyone's mind. Yeah.
AJ, I found the registration if you need to see it.
Yeah, I found it too. The hyphens got me. Thanks, host.
okay, are there any
So I
other?
have a question.
Yeah, Denise.
So Greene County Building Regulations, are you in the process of working with them, Charlie, as you're remodeling the interior?
Yes, ma'am. And then we're also in the process of getting everything together to after this meeting, ship off the paperwork to do all the permits.
Okay, because I know if you get you have to get Greene County building regulations involved. It isn't a zoning issue for us beyond what we're going to have here, but because it'll all be internal remodeling, but that would also kick in the fire code, and then that would kick in Colin, our fire chief. And I just want to make sure that all was handling, because you're dealing with something very flammable.
I have made a couple calls to Greene County already, and then after this hearing tonight, I'll be following up and pursuing all that.
Any other questions for Charlie right now? Okay, thank you very much, Charlie. Bring it back, and I'm going to open the public hearing on this. If anybody out there, members of the public, would like to comment or about this application, give you a few seconds to raise your hand or chime in, or let us know you're there via chat. It's always so quiet just sitting here staring at everybody at my screens.
I'm sorry, Tucker Thompson, my partner. Are you still there? Now's your time, buddy. Say hello to the folks.
Hi, Tucker. But okay, seeing no public comment, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. Bring it back to Planning Commission. Any further questions or concerns that members of Planning Commission have about this? Yes, Laura.
I agree that there's plenty of parking if people come in from the trail. The challenge at this point, and I do that a lot, but I go into the brewery, but the brewery's back door's closed. There's no way on the south end to get around. How do people get to their business from that parking area, and is there signage?
I mean, how do people get from where to where, Laura?
From the public, the Bryan Center parking areas, up the trail, and then get through Millworks to get to their front door. And, it's a little bit of a labyrinth, and I think there needs to be signage. Like, I'd like to make this approval conditional on there being improved public access from the trail to their business, so that if parking did become an issue, people clearly know how to get there. I mean, if the brewery keeps their back, we can't just cut through the brewery all the time to get to their business.
Should we make that a question for Jess too, since the property owner is there? And ask her I think, Laura, that'd be a good question to ask Jess and see what her thoughts were about that, and also about parking.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, Jess. So could you speak to concerns about the parking in Millworks, and then also the access from the other side of the building, from the bike trail side of the building, please?
Sure. I believe that there's plenty of parking at Millworks itself, especially for a distillery. When EnviroFlight's not working there, people will probably be frequenting the distillery. So so I don't think that will clash very much, those two businesses. And the last I was told, there's about 20 people that work at EnviroFlight. So and that's 20 fewer cars that are there in the evenings and on the weekends. And that kind of coincides with the 27 people that will be allowed inside of the distillery at one time, probably less if we have social distancing. As far as getting from the bike path to the distillery, it's really up to the people who are in charge of the bike path to allow any signage. So I believe it's a different department. I'm not sure how that works, trying to get a sign on there, but I heard it wasn't the easiest process.
Is there actually a path from a way to walk, down around the end of the brewery from the bike path into that parking lot?
You can get there from the bike path. You have to go around.
You have to go around the other end of the building. So go beyond it.
Around the Quonset hut.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if,
Okay, thanks, Jess.
I think that the gate, that's the patio gate area, I don't know if that remains locked, if that's an Ohio liquor requirement, because at one point, the reason that brewery had to put that fencing up was because people were walking and strolling out into the bike path area. So I am pretty sure that's locked. I was told though that people do tend to walk up there. Now, whether they go down Cliff Street and then down Walnut to get there, I don't know. But there are cars, people do use the village parking lot in the evening as a overflow parking there. And somehow they managed to walk up there.
Yeah. Yeah, Charlie, did you want to say something else?
Yeah, just to elaborate what I've seen, and a lot of folks also are riding bikes, and the way Jessica described from the bike path to go around, it's not really to walk. I would say it may be a little cumbersome, but to ride a bike, it's a quick, easy stroll. And then I will just say that in the evenings, you know, I've seen quite a few people start their bike rides. Yeah, we go. Bike rides in the evenings from the parking lot. So again, I just wanted to add that.
I have one more question. Charlie, what were your hours going to be?
Let's see.
Somewhat similar. There's kind of two sets of. Oh, I'm sorry, Denise. Did you want to?
No, I had it in
Yeah, it was in here somewhere.
Yeah. Let's see. It's gonna, I know Sunday and Monday, you're gonna just be brewing. You're not gonna be open.
Yes, ma'am. So to the public, it will be the tasting room hours will be noon to similar what the what did I say? 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. And then will be the distillation, especially in the beginning, will be off public hours. And then as we grow, of course, they might coincide, and we'll be able to do that via the restricted access. Did that make sense? Did I say it right?
Yeah. You did have noon. You had noon to 8,
Okay.
Tuesday through Saturday, and Sunday and Monday you
Yes.
would be brewing probably from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Yes, ma'am. That's it. Yeah.
Any other questions or concerns or planning commission members? So Denise, your recommendation or the staff recommendation was
To approve.
approve?
Yep.
Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, I'll second that. Judy, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Williams,
Yes.
Greene. Greene?
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Alada,
Yes.
Curlis,
Yes.
and Doden.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. And thank you, Charlie and Tucker, for being here. Good luck. Okay. All right. That gets us down to, through the public hearings, down to old business. Update regarding Glen Cottage's approval.
Staff met with members of Yellow Springs Home Inc. and along with Colin Altman, the fire chief. And after just some conversation around the table, we came up with what we felt was a real win-win for everybody solution. And just actually had a phone call today from Bob Baldwin, who did want to say, I just want to thank the Planning Commission and whoever all was involved in what he saw as a win-win situation. He said they actually heard the voices of the 12 residents that lived there, and he was really pleased about it. And basically it was simply a moving over the buildings, shifting them 8 feet over. So that removed the designated fire lane on Woodrow Street, creating a wide enough driveway on the north side of that property so fire trucks could access it. And everybody's happy. So.
Good. It's nice when people are happy.
BZA, I don't know. Do you know if you had any questions or anything to add to that? Do you know, being on BZA, they did approve the, I don't know, were you at
the variance on that?
Yeah, variance on that.
Okay. Okay. All right, so that was it for old business.
Can I just add
yeah.
something to old business? I'm sorry, because it completely passed me by when we were talking about the council report, but if Denise, if you could just give a quick update on the Millworks request for an extension.
Oh, yeah, the request for extension was coming due April 1st, and I had contacted the property owner back in February about writing to council for an extension of their time to submit their final plan. You know, COVID hit, time went by, and then this application from Charlie Harrell came up. There was some changes that were happening with the YS Brewery, and that in and of itself really changed the preliminary plan to the point where there really wasn't any point of even having an extension, because in my opinion, they'd have to come back with a new preliminary plan, depending on what it is they wanted to do with the PUD. So for right now, we will accept any tenants that fit the I-1 mixed use. And if the property owner or future property owner wants to exercise the PUD zoning's designation, they can come with a preliminary plan and hopefully make it through that and a final plan. That's pretty much it.
Thank you. Okay. Anything on new business? Scheduling a work session for subdivision regulations.
So
Fun.
So a subcommittee, including Frank and Nadia and Tom Dietrich, we met. That wasn't that long ago.
No, last week.
Yeah, about a week.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we're at that point now where we just probably need one more work session, excuse me, with Planning Commission. And then hopefully I can bring it back for actual public hearing process. It's a pretty big endeavor. I think we're so close to finalizing it. There's just a few more things. Tom's going to work on some calculations for the stormwater pamphlet that we hope to do for stormwater mitigation design ideas. And I think we'll be good to go then. But it would be nice if we could get together like we did a couple months ago when we didn't have any conditional use hearings or any other types of hearings, where we could just devote our time to the subdivision regulations. And so I thought possible work session.
Right.
And you know, that work session doesn't particularly have to be in the evening. If people have time available during the day, it's really up to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, as a teacher, my schedule is much more flexible during the summer than it is during the school year, so I can meet pretty much any time.
I really don't think it would take more than an hour,
Okay.
hour and a half max.
Okay.
So somebody wanted to try to do it over a lunch hour. I know Tom did that for this other one. We did it from 12 to 1. We were pretty close.
Yeah, I could do that.
That subcommittee. So if anybody, does anybody have some time available between now and July 14th? We want to set something up.
Yep.
Okay.
For the whole planning commission.
Judy, I'd like it to be a planning commission meeting, so I would.
Yeah, so as many of you as possible, we need a quorum in order to actually meet and make decisions as to what you wanted Denise to put in the regulations. So if we can get at least perhaps 4 folks, and that could include alternates.
Okay.
You send out like some possible dates and times so people can respond.
Is there anybody that daytime is an absolute no?
Well, do you folks have schedules in front of you? Do you want me to throw out a few things now?
I'd rather get them and then be able to, I don't have my schedule here.
Okay.
Be able to look at that and then respond.
So are you thinking do you need sometime within the next week or?
No, I have to advertise it, so.
Oh, okay. Right.
So I'll try to get, we need to make a decision pretty quickly. For example, if it has to be in the paper 10 days out from a meeting.
Mhm.
So if you were going to have a meeting, say the 29th of June, I'd have to have it in the paper next Monday, Tuesday at the latest.
Right.
In order for it to hit the 18th and have 10 days out.
Right.
So that's kind of where we're at.
Okay.
And I don't want to kind of get into 4th of July weekend. So
Wait, I'm confused. So wait, why do you need that much lead time?
do you have to have, do we have, or can it just be a regular, do we have to
No,
have?
it's a regular meeting. It's not a public hearing.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Yeah, no, you.
Oh, so we don't need that. Okay.
So we don't need the 10 days.
The last week of June, first week of July would be ideal in that it would give you enough time to write it up for the planning commission meeting on July 14th. So I'll send out times for looking at that week, various times during that week, because that lets us get it noticed in the paper and lets Denise get it written up for your July planning commission meeting.
It's not a public hearing yet. Yeah. Okay. That'd be
Okay,
great.
good.
Yeah, because we're going to have a July 8th BZA, and then we're going to turn right around and have a July 14th planning commission. So the earlier, the better.
Okay. And then under agending planning, you had parking minimums.
And we'll just scratch that for now.
Okay. And that turns my paper over where it says adjournment. I think I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I move in second that we adjourn. Judy, would you call the roll, please?
Godin,
Yes.
Colonna,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Greene,
Yes.
Perlis.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you all for your participation.
Thank
for
you.
my first Zoom meeting. That seemed to go all right. So,
Nice job, Frank.
well, you know,
Yeah.
it's
Good to see you guys.
somehow easier than teaching a Zoom meeting to a room full of teenagers. I don't know.
Well, thank you to Josue for covering me on sharing the screen. I had everything as it should be laid out and ready to go, and I don't know what happened. So I'll have to figure that one out.
And thank you, Jason, for your help.
Happy to be here, guys.
All right.
Thank you,
I guess we're
everyone.
done.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Everybody have a good night.
Good night.
Thanks, Jason.